Oh, hi Daniel. How are you doing?
Hey Sven, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
It's good here in Edinburgh. We're just trying to find out a way in these strange times. Where are you?
I'm in East Linton, a little village in East Lothian. I'm staying with my mum during lockdown, and it's lovely. I have a cat sleeping on my desk. Can't see it.
No, it's sleeping. It's very quiet. We've been talking now for about 20 minutes and it's not made a sound.
No,
No, good.
still.
Daniel, first thing I'd like to know is when did you actually start telling stories?
It was over a decade ago, so I think it was 2009, and it happened. Well, two things happened. One was that I read an article by a guy called David Wendelberry, who leads people out on vision quests where people go and fast on a hillside alone in nature for personal, spiritual development, understanding. And he wrote this article comparing what people went through and these experiences with stories, old stories, in which a hero goes out into the world and faces demons, fights battles, and comes back with new knowledge or with gifts. And I'd never made that comparison. I was interested in both things, and I was really interested in that. Reawakened my interest in the old stories, which I'd loved as a kid but kind of forgotten about. And then concurrently, around that time, I was learning didgeridoo from Ken Shapley, wonderful storyteller and didgeridoo player. And he just picked up this picture of this old man with a beautiful smile and long snowy hair. And he said, "That's David Campbell. You should meet him. He's a storyteller." And I said, "Storyteller?" And so it began.
Yeah, David Campbell, he's got a lot to be blamed for. But that was good, right? He's a lovely man, this David. So when I started telling stories, it was in 1994. I was a school teacher where people come in the morning, they have their breakfast, and then they go up at morning assemblies. And these morning assemblies were quite boring, so I started telling stories. It wasn't a revolution at all. It was more like, what's he actually doing up there? But what I found was that it resonated in a way that no books had ever done. So when I came in and had lunch later in the day, then people was retelling some of these stories, and nobody had ever done that with any books ever uh, been presented on these morning assemblies. And ever since then, I've sort of tried to figure out what is this storytelling actually. But first thing that happened in this sessions here, the duets, was this actually. And then the second is that you're going to tell me a story and I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, great.
Good.
There might be a little background noise because it seems that our neighbor is doing some sort of, oh no, he's cutting logs in his garden. So you might hear the odd pok of log cutting, but that's kind of appropriate because this story is about fire. So, you ready? Okay. So this story comes from the Selkut people of Siberia, and it's called The Fire Spirit. Siberia, this part of Siberia, is cold. Cold in a way that people who haven't been there just cannot imagine. The wind whips at you and it tries to flay the skin from your bones, and people who don't know what they're doing, don't know how to survive out in the wilds, they die. So in one particular Selkut village, there were 7 tents. They had these conical tents, kind of like teepees, and they were called chungs. There were 7 chungs, and in one particular chung, one particular evening, a young woman was playing with her baby as she made her supper. She had a newborn baby and she was smiling and she was laughing with it and delighting in it, the way mothers will. And she was getting ready this lovely meat stew and just generally feeling happy and contented. She had her little baby, her little gorgeous boy, and she had her husband. Her husband was away hunting and she had no doubt that he would bring back something for her because he was a fine hunter and he was handsome too and he was charming and loving, and she just felt like she had it made. She did. So the stew was bubbling away and she was sat there with her baby wrapped up in its swaddling clothes, and she's just talking to it and stroking, tickling its cheek, when a spark leapt from the fire. A spark leapt from the fire, and it landed on her baby's cheek. And as it did, her baby began to cry. And the mother, "How dare you," she said to the fire. "How dare you? That's my little boy. If you do that again, I will pour water on you and I will put you out." And well, as soon as she said that, another spark leapt from the fire. It didn't quite land on her boy, but it almost did. "How dare you? How dare you? One more," she said, "one more, and I will put you out." So she said this to her fire, and then another spark. Almost straight away, as if in answer, this spark leapt from the fire, and it landed just on her baby's little cap. "That does it." And she put down her boy, and she took the stew, and she upturned it. She upturned it over the fire. She took her poking iron, and she raked around. She took her water skin, and that too, and she raked around until the fire was nothing more than this muddy soup, this muddy mess. There was no fire left. Almost instantly, she began to feel cold. The temperature dropped, and her baby, which had quietened down, began to cry again. She touched her baby's cheek. Her baby was cold. "Oh, no, no." She needed to bring the fire back to life. So she was looking for any little spark, any little bit of heat or flame, and no, there was nothing. So she thought she'd get a call from a neighbor, and quickly, because her boy was getting colder. So out she went, and she went through the snow, through the darkness to the next chung, and she opened the little skin flap, and the neighbors, they were just gathered around the fire. What's going on here? Because the fire died. So she ran to the next one, and the same thing. The fire had just died. And she heard the cries in the other chunks. Everyone saying, "What's going on? What's going on?" All the fires had died. Oh, no. And she could hear babies, children crying now, women wailing. What was going on? She remembered something. She remembered that other chunk. You see, there was one chunk that was a little bit away from the rest, through some trees. And in that chunk lived an old woman. And this woman, she was old. She was old when that girl was young. She was old before that girl was born. And the girl, she avoided the old woman because the old woman made her uncomfortable. She made her think about death and things she just didn't want to think about. So she avoided her, but she thought the old woman, well, she might know what was happening here. She might be able to help. Perhaps her fire was still alive. So she ran through the snow to the old woman's chum. She lifted the skin flap, and she went, and there was the old woman, hunched over her fire. "I do not understand this. I do not understand this," she said, seeing the girl. "Why has my fire gone out? I always look after my fire," she said. "I pray to it, I sing to it, I give offerings, I feed it, I cover it over when I go to sleep. My fire is always burning bright." "Do you have something to do with this, little one?" she said to the girl. "Have you perhaps insulted your fire?" "Yes," said the girl. "Oh, stupid." And the girl told the whole story to the old woman, and the old woman, she gave her this scathing look that could have melted bones. "Stupid, stupid girl." She took her iron, and she got down to her knees, and she carefully raked through the remains of her fire, and then she called the little girl, called the young woman, and the young woman got down and saw right there in the middle of the coals, in this little kind of cave, was a being. sat there, its arms wrapped around its knees. It had black, shining skin, little blue veins crisscrossing it, long blue hair, big wide eyes. It was the fire spirit. Fire spirit, said the old woman. I know what this stupid girl has done. I'm sorry. I am sorry for her ignorance, her disrespect. But please, do not punish all our people. Do not make brave warriors die. Kind, quick-witted, cunning, sharp-eyed women, innocent children. Do not let them all die for her stupidity. She insulted me, said the fire spirit. She poured stew on me. She poured water on me. And I am not coming back to life. Is there anything, said the old woman, can anything be done, fire spirit? Only one thing, said the fire spirit. The only thing that will bring me back is life. The old woman looked at the young woman. So this is how it ends for me. I hope you learn some wisdom, girl. But no, no, said the girl. I made this wrong. I must put this right. And she kissed her baby boy so lovingly. She gave her boy to the old woman. She put out her arms and she fell. She fell upon the remains of the fire, and blinding blue light filled the chung. And for just an instant, the spirit of that girl could be seen weaving its way through the air in that chung, up throughout the smoke hole, and then the fire burst back into brilliant life. And cries of joy and cheers could be heard from the other chungs. All the fires were alive again. And a few days after that, the girl's husband came back. Where's my wife? Why has she not come out to meet me? The old woman met him. And when the old woman told him the whole story, the hunter was, well, he was heartbroken, of course. But he was wise, and he said, well, at least our people will learn from this story. Those who hear it will know never to disrespect the fire, because fire is life. And that's the story of the fire spirit. Thanks for listening, Sven.
Thanks for the story. Wow. Yeah. Well, I will try to respect fire from now on. It's really yeah, but all of these stories that tells us that we need to find a way to be in nature. That's strong at this moment. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. It reminds me of a story from the we have to go to America, and because you describe these tents so very clearly, and there's this man and this woman, and how she became angry on this man, I don't know. I mean, it's not for us to understand how a woman can be angry at a man, but she was really like, why did I marry this guy? Why? She was so full of rage, and she just opened this tippy, she ran out. And the big spirit came to the man and said, what's going on with the woman? Why is she mad? And he didn't know. I mean, that's often we don't know why they're mad at us, you know how it is. So this big spirit said, well, you don't have a baby, do you? No. so you are actually the first man and the first woman. Yes, we are the first man and the first woman. It could be the last man and the last woman then, because we need to make her happy again. So the big spirit went down in his little workshop there, and he started working on things, and then he came up with something, and he said, give this to the woman as she's running out far away from this place now. So the man really was fast there, and he laid this in front of her, and he was waiting for her response for that. And what the big spirit had created for the woman that should please her was carrots, potatoes, all those kind of things that make a soup strong and good. He thought that is everybody, every woman will be soft and nice with this, but she was just so angry still. What's going on? Potatoes? I don't want potatoes. So he made it another time, and he brought it sort of so it was in front of her, and she came there, and there was garlic, salt, and pepper, and all these things can make a soup very good and tasty, but that didn't make her heart any more milder, maybe even worse. She was just so furious as she passed through it. So the big spirit worked for the third time in his workshop, and this time he really created something. He came to the man and said, if she's not pleased with this, I don't know what to do, because this is the best that I can do. So he was put in front of the woman. She was walking there, and what she saw was these big red hearts, and she was like, red and fury, it sort of connected. So she just looked at it and felt like, oh, what's going on with this? So she took a foot and sort of squeezed one of these hearts into the ground there. But what happened then was that the smell from this heart came into her nostrils, and it was like the smell of love, the smell of pure, innocent, lovely love. And she was just going, oh, what was that? I might have a taste of this. And when she tasted it, it was like all her fury just was gone. And suddenly he was standing next to her. The man had said, do you want another one? Yes, they shared this. And that's how strawberries came to the world. And if anyone gets upset during the season, it's not good with these imported strawberries. It has to be Scottish strawberries. Then bring a strawberry to this person, and in a moment they will taste it. It's just got just anger. It's gone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's good to tell stories to each other. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's lovely to have you. So I will continue with my story then, right? The one that I prepared for this event.
Okay.
And then we have to go to, we've been in Siberia, and then we've been in Northern America, and now I will bring you to Central Africa. And in this place, there was this woman who just inherited I was like a flock, you call it a flock, a herd of goats. Yeah? Herd. Yeah, I think it's a herd. It's one of the beautiful things with the English language, that you have the circus of Puffin, or have all these different flocks of deer. But this one was a goat, and she had about 20 of them or something like that. And she was trying to figure out where there was this river, because she was quite far from her own village. So there was this man standing in front of his house, and she said to him, excuse me, where's the river? Well, this man was my age, old, and what are you saying? And we will never admit that there is any problems with our ear or anything like that. He was like that. I don't have any problems with my ear, but he couldn't hear what she was saying. So he was just about going like with both hands, but his left hands was sort of lame. So it was only one hand he was going like, I don't know. And so she looked at the right hand and said, thank you. And she walked in that direction, which was the direction of the river. So she was very happy when she came down there. her 20 goats were running around, drinking, having some grass, and everything was fine until one of them stumbled over, broke its leg. She was quite far away from her own village, and it wasn't a big goat, but it was like one of the small ones, but still was heavy to carry. She took it, it couldn't walk anything, and she just started to walking up, and she passed the old man. And when she saw him, she was like, I'm going to give that goat to that old man. And then he can bring all the other people in the little village together, and then we'll have some nice meat for today. So she stood there with the goat and then showed the leg that was broken and gave it to the man and said, here it is. You can bring all your neighbors and you can have a stew. But what he saw was this woman standing with a goat with a broken leg and saying something that he didn't understand a word of. But what he said was that, I didn't do it. I didn't break that leg. What are you talking about? I had nothing to do with your leg. No, you have to have this. Give it to the other people in the village. And they started arguing. And there was not a lot of things going on in the village like that. So people started coming in from the cottages and just gathered around finding out what was going on here. And when the man saw that, he got really desperate. All his friends were there, and what was going on? I didn't do it. I didn't break the leg of that goat. And she was now going like, you have to have it. And she pushed this goat right in the arms of this man in a desperation. He didn't know what else to do. He gave her a slap right here in the chin. And there was a silence. And she just looked at him. No man had ever touched me, and no man ever will again. I call the judge for this. He gonna judge. He gonna give you a hard fine for this. This is not fair. So the judge was called. He was even older than the old man. He couldn't hear. He couldn't see. But asked him, and he said, perfect. My sight is perfect. My earrings just like that. So he came out of his little cottage and stumbled up there, and he looked at the woman, looked at the man, and he looked at the goat. Then he was told the story, and said the woman, and she was explaining about this goat, and she just wanted the village to have it. And the old man said, well, I don't know, I haven't done anything. I didn't break the leg. And I just in panic slapped her. I'm so sorry about it. And after that, the judge said, well, here is what I will say to this. And he looked at the woman and said, when a man is out there in the field and comes home, you have to clean the house and have the meal prepared for him. Don't do anything else like that. And to the man, he said, don't slap your woman. Nobody slaps women here, even though she hadn't prepared your meal for you and you were not satisfied with that. And he looked at the goat and said, and for the little boy, I just hope that he will be brought up to be a nice and fine young warm man, and I hope that he is, and I think that he is. Can I go back to my cottage now? And then he walked back to his cottage. And they were just standing and looking around. Yeah, well, that was a fair, that was fair, right? I mean, none was giving anything that was unfair. But there was a young man there, handsome, and he stepped forward and said, did you mean that about giving us the goat? And she said, yes, I certainly did. So there's only one condition, he said, that you are coming back after you have brought your goat back home to your home village. So it all ended very happily. This evening was nice, the moon was up, the old man finally understood that there was nothing going on with that, and this young man and this young woman was sitting there having the goat stew, and it was just lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
I lived in Uganda for a while, I don't know if you know, and I worked at a school, and every meal we had was exactly the same. It was posho and beans. Posho is this kind of white, lumpy flour stuff. It's really not great. And beans, and it was all tasteless, and I couldn't stand it. And you had that every meal, every day, 7 days a week, apart from Wednesday lunchtime, when you got goat meat and beans, sorry, goat meat and rice. And I look forward to that stuff all week. So I always just kind of associate goats and goat meat with Africa. So that's kind of appropriate. But yeah, that's a nice story. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did it inspire you to any story or song or anything?
Do I do another one in this session?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I thought from the way you described it earlier was we then sort of pause and then start again.
But you can say that it was the thing about Uganda was what you brought into this, so it's fine. I mean, in the moment, what you just is asked here in this session is, well, did it inspire us anything? I mean, did it bring any thoughts or anything? A song, I mean.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I'd like to tell a little story from that time when I was in Uganda, if that's all right. So I went up to the north of Uganda, and this was in a time when the south of the country was pretty safe, and the north was very unsafe and nobody went there. And there was a park, Murchison Falls, which was maybe safe, maybe not. Not many people went there, but it was supposed to be just the most beautiful place. You know, this incredible national park with this waterfall and thousands of every kind of animal. So me and my girlfriend at the time and a couple of other people. So my girlfriend was a girl called Rowan, and we had this other pair called Kathy and Amy. We went up together. So we met in the capital, Kampala, and we took a bus, and I think it was about 6 hours to get up to the kind of town, which was the starting off point to get there. And I remember we had this bottle with us, and a bottle of water, just like normal kind of size bottle of water in the bus, and Kathy opening it and being about to drink it when someone stop and realized it was gasoline for our little camping stove. So that was the first dangerous incident that we got there, and we found the man who was willing to drive us in his car to Murchison Falls, and we drove for hours through the dark, and he was driving crazy fast, and he ran over a mongoose at one point, and finally got to the park, and there's just a few people staying there. I'm like, oh, you're here, eh? Okay. And so huge big wild place, and had this amazing day. I went on this boat and towards down the river towards the falls, and saw like thousands and thousands of hippos and elephants and monkeys and eagles. And then we went to a different area of the park. I can't remember how we got there, but this area was jungle, and you could go there and you could go and track chimpanzees. And so we got to the edge of the jungle, and the rest of it was plains, and there was lions and giraffes and all these things. And we were going to go chimpanzee tracking. We had our tents, and we set up our tents in the camping area. It was just this clearing at the edge of the jungle, the edge of the savannah, and there was no one around. This was all very, very basic. It was all pretty wild. So me and Rowan were in one tent, and Kathy and Amy were in the other tent. And we made our little dinner with our little stoves, some rice and something or other, and then we went to our tent. And I was lying there in the middle of the night, and then I heard this. There was this loud growling, throaty growling sound. And there's another one, another one, and there's more of them. And other than this, whatever it was coming into the camp, into the campground. And well, there's lions out there, and I thought, it's lions, and I was very scared, and came closer, and then it was obviously approaching our tent, and then it growled again, and then Rowan would wake up. What's that? And I put my hand over her mouth. Something outside our tent. Just be quiet, don't move. And then there was one right outside the tent, so it was, less than just through the little thin canvas. And it just sat there. And then there was this sound of claws scraping against the canvas. And I've never been so scared in my life. And it was there for a while. Eventually, went away. Finally, I don't remember if I got back to sleep. I think I went back to sleep. And then later in the night, came back and again on the canvas. And then they went away. And in the morning, we all got out of tents, and Kathy and Amy, it turns out, had been awake too, and we're all and then we're getting ready for the day, and this Ugandan lady comes walking through the campground, and she's got this big smile. She's got the wrap around her head, and we sort of gathered around her, and she didn't speak English really, but we were, and I was doing the noise, this, and she, baboons. And that's my story. You're muted. You're muted.
Unmuted now, but I actually like the one as a moment there was just, but I've just have to. Daniel is actually sitting there and he's telling the story. It's all right. So it's like panicking. Thank you so much, man. It was great. Yeah, it was good to hear stories from that. Yeah, I've been in Namibia. I've never been to Uganda, but I've been even further down south. And I remember these nights with only the sound of what was going on around us. There was absolutely no sound from anything, any human activities, just the animals out there. And in the cottage as well, of course. I mean, we were sleeping in the cottage once, and there was this big, and my daughter was about 1 year old, something like that. And she, of course, had the mosquito net around her. But I remember I woke up with one of these spiders or whatever it was falling down. It was like, and ran away. Thank you so much, man. It's online in a couple of hours. I see what I can do with this, and it's brilliant. Thank you so much. Take care, okay?
Thank you, Sven.
Okay, good. See you.
Bye.
Bye.